what exactly is a vector? When we were talking about variables had one value in our previous tutorial. Now we can also assign multiple values to a single variable. That is what is called a vector. For example, if I say a equal to c 3, 6, 8, and 4. Now what I'm doing here is c here is a combine operator. It combines the value 3, 6, 8, and 4 and then assigns it to the variable a. Now if I execute the run button, a has these values. If we want to find out how many elements are there in the variable a, we can find that using the function length. And I type a inside the bracket, click the run button, it will show me that it has 4 elements. Now if I want to find out what is the type of a, I can use that using the class function that we learned in our previous tutorial, and I type a inside, it says it's numeric. On the other hand, I also have another option of using this type of function, and if I click a, it says it's a double. So like we learned, integers and floats are considered numeric. They just have one value in R. So they are termed as double, or they're termed as numeric. Now if I'm going to add another element to this particular variable, let's try adding another element, or let's create a new vector. B equal to C 6, 1, 8, 2, 4 high, and I also say true, which is a boolean, and I click the run button. Now B has got executed, but if you see here, B has all the values now as character. So B equal to 6, 1, everything is a character now. The reason being, the moment we type even a single string inside the array, everything else, irrespective of the data type, it becomes a string. So here everything is actually a number. So it's a numeric value, and this one is a boolean value, but everything becomes a string. So if I have to find the sixth element of the vector b, so if I type b, I'm sorry, I should not be typing capital B because R and Python both are case sensitive, and we have a small variable b here. So I'll be typing small b, and in the square bracket, if I type 6 and I click the run button, it gives me high, which is perfectly fine. Now if I type the seventh element, which is true here, it gives me in quotes. So it's not just giving me the true as a value, it's actually giving me in quotes, which means it's a string. If I type the first element, and to find the first element, we type 1. So the first element in the vector b is also in quotes. So this everything here in the vector b is a string. The same thing if I do with our first vector a and 1 inside the square brackets, and I run, it says 3, so without quotes. So here everything is a number, but here everything has got converted to a string because of this one single string value here. So that's how vectors operate. Vectors cannot have multiple data types, it can only have one single data type. And the moment you add something weird, everything else changes. What if I try to create another variable, say d equal to c 3, 67, 32, 45, and just true here. So true is a boolean and all the others are numeric. Let me click the run button. So d has all these values and it is numeric here. So if I type d and if I try to extract the fifth element here and I click the run button, it gives me the value as 1. So it's not giving me the value as true, it is giving me the value as 1. Okay, what if I had true and false as well? Let me run. Let me click the run button. Now, if I try to find, this is the sixth element. So if I type something like 6d of 6 here, click the run button, it says 0. So false is considered as 0 and true is considered as 1 in R. Hence, these get converted to numeric. Though they are actually Boolean, but when we combine them with numbers, they get converted to integers or numeric. What if we add a data type date along with number here? So if I have another variable e equal to c 67 44 77, and to have a data type as date, we use this as dot date, and inside the parenthesis we put in quotes whatever date we want to type. Let me take it in the next line here, and here I type 2021 year, and month is 05 and 07. And if I click the run button, E is also number. So all these things have got converted to number. So even the date gets converted to a number. So if I type E, and now rather than me counting how many elements we have a function in R to calculate the number of elements in a vector. So we can do that using the function length of E. And if I click the execute button, the run button, it says there are 4 elements here. So I can do something like this. Instead of hard coding the numbers inside, I can also say E, and in the square brackets, since I know that as dot date is the last element in the vector, I can also type length of E. So length of E actually says the number of elements. So here we are saying E, and in square brackets we are actually saying go to the fourth element, which is the last element here. And if I click the run button, it gives me some kind of a weird number which I'm not at all familiar with. And remember, this is something very similar in Excel as well. So if you type something like this in Excel, you would be getting some similar number here. Let's head over to Excel to illustrate that. If I have a date, say 2020 0506, and if we look at it, it is in date format. Now if I go to this drop down and select number, it changes to some weird number. This is exactly what is happening in R as well. Let's head over to R Studio now. So this date gets converted to a number. So this is how vectors operate, and any vector can have only one data type. Let us now move over to Python. In Python, if we have to create vectors, we cannot create directly. We will have to import a library first. And here we'll be importing a library called NumPy. And to import, we use the command import NumPy. And I'll also be adding as NP. And I shall explain in just a bit as to why I'm calling the NumPy library as NP. Let me click the Shift plus Enter button. And now this has got executed. So to create a vector in Python, we'll be doing something like this: np.array, and inside the parenthesis we'll also be putting a square bracket here, and inside the square bracket, say we want to add 4 numbers here: 2, 56, 78 and 30 or 42, and let me assign it to a variable called a. And if I also print a, it will give me all these 4 numbers. So np.array, how do I know what should I type here? If I just type np dot and I click the tab button, it gives me all the options that I have. So what I have selected here is np.array. So that comes somewhere way down, array. Other functions that we can use in NumPy: np.abs absolute add. So we'll come to the important ones in our next or the upcoming tutorials. But this is the feature of numpy. So numpy has got many functions which we can use, and I have typed np dot here. If I had not used as np, then I would have to type numpy dot, numpy dot, and by assigning this an alias as np, I just need to type these two letters here instead of typing all these five letters. So that is the benefit of using this alias command here. Okay, now to find how many elements are there in the vector A, we have this function called len, and we put A inside the parenthesis, click the shift plus enter button, it says there are 4 elements. So compared to R, where we used length as the function, here we're using len as the function to find the number of elements. That's the only minor difference. And now if I want to find the type of A, I click type, and inside the bracket I put A. It says numpy.nd array. So here it's now an nd array. There's another thing that we can try. What if I do something like b equal to np.array, and I add a few numbers 4, 7, 2, 8, and I also add a high over here. Let me see what happens if I click the execute or shift plus enter button. If I type B here, B has all these numbers, but again if you see here in A there were no quotes, but here it has quotes. Everything is in quotes because we had high, a string inside along with these numbers. So just like we have in R, here also the moment you add a string, everything gets converted to a string. So if I say type of B, it is still going to be a numpy array. But just like we have in R, even in Python, if you are talking about vectors, arrays, a single variable can have only one data type. So all the values that you enter can only be either numbers or string or character and string the same. So if we enter a vector in either R or Python, everything has to be the same data type, or everything will be the same data type, no matter what mistake you make, and it still gets executed like this, gets executed here. Everything is the same data type, which is character or string here. Now if I want to find the first element in the vector A, let's talk about vector A, which looks to be more decent because it just has numbers here. I have made a mess by adding a character or a string over here. So let's talk about vector A. Vector A has 4 elements. We could find the length using this function. Now if I want to find the first element here, to find the first element in R for vector A, what we did was A with the square brackets we put 1, and we got the answer as 3. So if I execute this, it says 3. But here if I want to find the first element A, and if I put 1 here and I click the run button, it gives me the answer as 56. But 56 here, if you notice, is the second element. So what is happening here? In Python, the indexing starts from 0. So if I put A0, it gives me the answer as 2, and 2 is the first element. So the difference in R and Python is indexing in Python starts from 0 and indexing in R starts from 1. Okay, let's see another difference between R and Python. Now, if I put a length of A, which means now length of A is 4. So I'm trying to find out the fourth index in the vector A, and I click the run button, it throws an error, right? Because if I have the indexing starting from 0, this is going to be 0th element, first element, second element, and third element. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So if I want to find the last element in Python, I cannot use length of A. I should actually do something like length of A minus 1. And if I click the run button, now it gives me the last element of the vector A. So this is another difference between R and Python because of the indexing, the way indexing functions in Python and R. Now, if I want to find the first three elements, let me create another vector here. Let's say I have a vector called x equal to np dot array, and please don't forget to put a square bracket inside. And let's say I generate some random numbers here: 23, 56, 45, 70, 89, 67, 12, 44, 77. I hope I have entered enough numbers. And let me execute x. What went wrong here? I did not put any number here. Let me put some number here. 7. Say I'll put a number as 4, and I click the execute button. Oh, I have made another mistake. Okay, let me put a number as 9, single digit. Click the execute button. So now x has all these numbers. So if I want to do indexing in Python, if I want to find these three numbers, if I want to extract or pull these three numbers, how do I do that in Python? So here this number is in the first index. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So 1 to 3. Now if I type x from 1 to 3 using this colon operator, what will happen is if I execute this, it will give me just these two numbers. It is not giving me the third number. So how Python functions is, when we do the indexing, when we do the slicing here, it will only take up to the last but one element. It will not take the last element here. So if we want 89 as well, we will have to put 1 is to 4, which means 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are actually in the slicing, we are actually calling these 4, but when it gets displayed, it will only display the first 3. So it will not display the fourth element. So let me execute this. There you are. It's only giving up to 89. It doesn't give the fourth element here, the fourth index, the element in the fourth index. Now, since I have typed some random numbers, I don't even know how many numbers are there. If I just want to extract the last number, one option that I have in Python is x, and then I can also type something like -1, and then I click the run button. It gives me the last element. So that is one benefit we have in Python. To even if we don't know what is the length of, or what are the number of elements we have in Python in a particular vector, we can use this -1 to find the last element. Now, if I want to find the last three elements, how can I do that? So x, and if this is -1, then what is -2? Let's do -2 here. So -2 is the second last element. So if I want to extract the last three elements, I can do something like this: x -3, it will just give me the third last element. But if I want to extract all the remaining elements, I will put a colon here and I leave this space blank. And if I click the run button, it gives me all these three elements: -77, 22, and 11. Because if I put -1 here, which is the last element, and when I click shift plus enter, it only gives me the last two elements because it will not consider the last index. So we have to be wary of this. Whenever we need to extract, we have to be wary of the fact that in Python, when we do a from and to in the slicing, in the to parameter, whatever number we put, only the number up to that number, the one before that, gets extracted. So this was all about vectors, the basic features of vectors and how it functions in R and Python. I hope you were able to understand how R works and how Python works. There are slight differences. I have not covered slicing in R in this tutorial. I would encourage you to try and explore about how exactly slicing would work in R. Try doing the same thing that we did in Python for slicing and see how it is different from Python. In the next tutorial, we learn about vector arithmetic. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, please do post them in the comment section. See you in the next tutorial. Thank you very much.